They tell you to find purpose in life, and it's a funny one. I do believe we are destined for great things. But what do I know?
Welcome back to another episode of the Observer series, and today just want to talk about do not operate out of fear, right? Fear is a big thing for a lot of people because for most, when it comes to fear, it's the thing that's holding them back from getting that certain job that they want, the trip that they want to take. Think about it. There's times where you probably wanted to try new food, but you're afraid of how it would taste, right? You're afraid of wasting the money on something that you know you could possibly not like at all. There's a trip that you're thinking about taking, but you're afraid to get on the plane, fear of flying. And a lot of these fears at times make sense because it's survival instincts, things are going to keep us alive. A fear of water, which some people might be like, oh, why are you afraid of water? Well, none of us can naturally just really float, right? So you got to deal with bone density, buoyancy, all that type of things, and which you're worried about. Well, whether or not it's going to kill you. Plain, right? That makes sense, plain and simple. But when it comes to trying for that team that you want to try to be on, think about being in high school when you go to a trial, you want to be on a certain team, the sports events, something like that. And well, you don't do it because you were afraid the whole entire time, as opposed to you actually just going out there and trying, because worst case scenario, you just don't make it. But you weren't going to make it anyways because you didn't try. So you might as well try, and then at least you can see where you're at. I think one of the things that I dealt with in my life is when anytime I felt like I was about to be afraid of something, I had to try it. I had to go do it because I'm afraid of the feeling of fear. I don't like that feeling. So I'd rather try something instead of dealing with the feeling of fear, the emotion of fear, rather, right? Because it's very overwhelming, and it has a strong hold on you and stuff. And I think about a lot of people when they want to try to create art. Not necessarily we're talking about painting or anything, but just in general, videos, music, things like that. And people are afraid. A lot of times people are afraid of what others will say. Not because they necessarily care what others think about them, but because we don't want to hear what others are saying externally because it's a reflection of how we feel internally. And that fear holds a lot of people back from creating the art that they should create and, releasing it to the world. Because some of the artists that we see in the music industry, and I'll use that as an example because I'm an artist myself, they're not that good, right? They don't have the skill, they don't have the talent, they don't have the technique. They just have the marketing, right? They have the machine that's pushing them out there. And a lot of times people just see the image of, hey, this person is on a billboard, this person is on Grammys, this person is on a radio. Correlation to they must be good because they would not be here otherwise. And the reality is, it doesn't matter whether they're good or not. They're there because they are a product in which is being pushed by this industry, right? These corporate giants who are trying to make money. They don't care about the art at all. Spotify pushes out certain artists, pushes out certain type of music. Well, you're letting an algorithm tell you what the fuck to listen to as opposed to you figuring out yourself. But we're all kind of caught in this machine because those that are creative and have actual talent, have skill, and have passion and drive for it are afraid to put themselves out there. So we get the shit that we get. And it's really that simple, but a lot of times people just don't see it for what it is. You may not want to make that certain video because you're afraid to get on camera. And that makes sense because you're not comfortable yet in that type of atmosphere, in that type of scenario in which you're talking to the camera and stuff. It's not necessarily a natural thing for people to do because essentially you're fucking talking to yourself, right? I'm sitting here in the park talking to myself with the camera on and the mic recording and there's other people around and stuff. But yet, I know I'm not talking to myself because eventually someone else will hear this. But at the same time, I can just talk to myself. And if I put a camera in front of me and I turn a mic on and people see it, they'll think, oh, he's just recording a video. He must be doing content. And they'll think that's normal. I do this shit all the time. With no camera, no microphone, we all do because we sit in our homes and do that as well. Some of us. Some of y'all ain't got that inner voice for some reason. NPCs, but whatever. That's a whole nother conversation. But it's the fear that holds people back because the content that you see is being created, that's pushed out there on social media, we all like, oh man, this is trash. This should be a little bit better. Everyone's a critic, but not everyone is doing the shit because most are afraid to try. So as long as you believe in yourself and you're not afraid to try, you will find success because the fear is holding you back. And that fear that's holding you back is also the same reason why you haven't found a success in your life in which you can achieve. Because you've been pussy the majority of your life. You've just been afraid. And that's okay. Because it's easy to accept that you're afraid and take that next step. As opposed to coming up with excuses or being in denial. Oh, I don't really want to make that. I don't really want to be in front of the camera. I don't really like that type of stuff, whatever. Like, I'm too old to make music. Why am I rapping at 35, 36? That's rapping is a young person's thing. I don't need to touch that, right? I don't need to try to create this stuff, whatever. It's oversaturated. Why stream when everyone is streaming? I'm just another person. Nobody's gonna watch me. All these different things that come up in people's head that sound logical, but it's bullshit. And because it's bullshit, guess where you're stuck at? Doing the same shit you've been doing in the endless cycle. Do not let yourself operate from a perspective of fear, from an emotional standpoint of fear, from the frequency of fear. Because it will become your whole reality. But if you have, do I want to say the courage, the balls, the cojones, if you have that thing in you to just say, you know what, I'll just try. I don't even want to call it courage. I think more or less is, if you're not, I don't want to say afraid. If you will just take that step. And don't think about fear, don't think about success, don't think about any of that. Just focus on that next step and what you want to accomplish. And take it step by step because it's really that simple, right? I'm talking about fear, but I keep saying how everything is that simple because just making a conscious choice to do something and then having the action, the energy to put out or to create that action or put that into action, that's it. That's everything. I tell that to my kids all the time. Like, if you want to do something, do it. Because it's a lot easier to do it than it is to talk about doing it, than it is to think about doing it, than it is to be afraid of trying to do that thing that you want to do. But you are who you are, and what you want to be, a lot of times, you can be as long as you just try. And if you try and fail, that's okay. Try again because, well, you're learning from what you just tried. Now you're teaching yourself. Now you're self-taught. All that energy that you feel anytime you're afraid, take that shit, look it in his face, breathe in, breathe out, let it go, and move forward. You'll be fine, right? You'll be fine. Even if you fuck up, you'll still be fine. Everything will be all right. Because no matter what, you got you. And you believe in you, and that's all you really need anyways. Fuck the fear. I'm out.
They tell you to find purpose in life, and it's a funny one. I do believe we are destined for great things. But what do I know?